going into this game, we're going to talk about this a bunch as we go throughout the day. There was always the story, or like the discussion was swirling around New England. How real are they? Are they underrated because you got to be really good to be 17-3 over the course of a season? Are they overrated because their schedule was soft, etc.? All perfectly reasonable questions, and reasonable minds can disagree. What was getting lost in the sauce, though, and I said this on Friday, I get so much wrong. It's give myself a quick pat on the back to get it right. This is a Seattle story. They're great. They were great. And I saw them winning going away. I think the real Super Bowl, the two best teams played in the NFC Championship game. And there's nothing wrong with that. New England's really good. They're ahead of schedule. They were 4-13, 2 straight years, picking 3-4. And they got a very bright future with an excellent coach, a really good young quarterback. They need more. They need some reinforcements. Really good season. Nothing to hang your head about. But Seattle's a buzzsaw. Seattle is awesome. And I think that really shone through last night in a game that they dominated.
Patriots got absolutely outclassed. There's just no doubt about it. And domination's the right word, I think. I mean, they suffocated New England for Super Bowl title number 2 organizationally. But the whole run was dominant.
Yep.
People forget they beat San Francisco by 35. That game was in the playoffs 2 weeks ago. It feels like, I guess it was 3 weeks ago, but 2 games ago. 35 and 16-point wins en route to a title. They survived the Rams in the NFC Championship game. We're really the one team all year that had a good...
Had a little answer for them.
Plan and a matchup. I think it was the elite play of their wide receivers because Seattle can just lock you down with their corners and their secondary, and now you're in trouble because they're not blitzing and they're rushing 4. And there aren't many teams that have 2 Hall of Famers at wideout and Puka Nacua and Devontae Adams that can give you problems the way the Rams do. But you look at the run Seattle had, it's going to go down as an all-timer. They trailed for 1 minute and 35 seconds in 3 playoff games total. That was the least amount of time trailing on your way to a Super Bowl since the 1991 Redskins that might be the greatest team of all time. They were the first team, Danny, to never turn the ball over for an entire playoff run, leading to a Super Bowl championship. No one else. Crazy to me. Because so many teams play 3 games. It's bye week, play, conference title game, Super Bowl. 12 quarters, no one else had ever not turned the ball over once. Seattle was the first to do it. They were 4th best all time in terms of DVOA, regular season and playoffs. And that is the metric that is, I think, best used to quantify excellence for a team. The 91 Redskins, by the way, are still number 1. I don't think enough people talk about the fact that the 91 Redskins are probably the greatest team of all time. In this market, we do, but outside of it, nobody really does. Otherwise, it was the 85 Bears, the 07 Patriots that almost went undefeated, kind of circuit to circuit. But this was the 4th best team DVOA in history. This Seattle team was really special.
Yeah, they were incredible. And, this is going to sound like a criticism, but it's not. I think they left meat on the bone. New England, and you saw this early on, Collinsworth pointed this out, I actually thought he was good on this. They're jumping every route. They're going, bleep it. We're going after you. Every out route, there's a hand right there. The first possession, I think it was either the first or second throw that Darnold made. I think it was to the tight end. I'll file that away. Let's go ahead and run something called a double move a little bit later on. We'll run some out and ups on your ass. We'll go ahead and have a couple deep shots. They never went to it. I think they felt like they never had to because they were running some brilliant stuff run game wise. They designed things so well to get kind of unbalanced looks from New England so that all of a sudden everybody's one-on-one blocking and Kenneth Walker's just Le'Veon Bell skating his way through the line of scrimmage for a gash run after gash run. They knew kicking field goals was going to be really important.
Yeah, why take any
No reason to take a chance.
When you have the best scoring defense in the NFL and when you don't think the other offense can move the ball on you at all. Now, they almost hit on a couple of home runs. The Rashid Shaheed outstretched overthrow from Darnold. And then there was another one late in the game where he just kind of overshot. I think it was Jackson Smith and Jigba when he made like this really nice play. It was actually super early now that I think about it. But he got away from pressure and he reset and he threw on a 3rd down and long and he just play well. But even still, I thought offensively for Darnold, he didn't have to be great.
Right.
Like, it was the Kenneth Walker show. It was a defensive performance that left no doubt. And you wake up this morning with the Seahawks as Super Bowl champions and you think, well, was it kind of a weak road, or is the NFL down this year? No, let's give them credit. That's the best defensive DVOA Super Bowl performance, 6th all time in terms of overall Super Bowl outing defensively. Teams like the 2000 Ravens, the 85 Bears, the 02 Bucks, who had 3 pick sixes against the Raiders.
Yeah.
Like, those are the better Super Bowl performances defensively than last night's. For a Seattle team that's sneaky been really good for a long time organizationally with John Schneider. They draft well, they develop well. Do you realize they're number 1 in the NFC in playoff wins now over 25 years? I would not have thought that. Like, if you did this
Interesting.
Family Feud style, you're like, all right, NFC playoff wins, last 25 years, go. They would not be the first or second team I'd name. But they have the most of anybody. And at 60-1 before the season started, they became the biggest long shot to win the title since the 01 Patriots 25 years ago, tied for the second longest odds for a Super Bowl champion in the last 50 years. So nobody really saw it coming in the offseason. We saw it at Northwest Stadium
firsthand
midway through the year when they were just a big league team and Washington was a high school team. They're great.
Just a bear playing with its food. Yeah, they were incredible. They were an absolute buzzsaw. The defensively, that's obviously where we should start, and we'll talk about the most. It doesn't lead to an aesthetically pleasing game. It's not a video game where it's everyone's going back and forth and ringing the bell, and it's whoever gets the ball last is going to win.
Did you think it was a boring game? A lot of people are like, oh, that game stunk.
I did to a degree.
Do you need points for a game to be good?
Not necessarily,
because I thought it was good defensive football in the first half. Now, I'm not saying both ways constantly, like Drake May's missing throws, Darnold's missing things, but by and large, I kind of was impressed by Seattle's defense. Not like, oh my God, what are we doing here? I didn't find myself sitting there watching Bad Bunny at halftime going, this is one of the worst Super Bowls ever. But I know for a lot of people, if it's not up and down, if you're not scoring points, like 9-0's kind of a gross score.
Yeah, so there's a happy medium. In other words, if I go to an NBA game, it doesn't have to be 135, 133 for me to have a good time. But also, I don't need the Pat Riley scores in the 70s either when he's coaching on the East Coast. Like there's a happy medium there. It's got to be, hey, I understand the import or how amazing it is that we were able to score because we do see some defense, right? I like that happy middle. It was reminiscent of the 10-3 Rams Patriots Super Bowl of years ago, where it's just like there's not much happening on offense for either team. Even though Seattle was moving the ball a little bit, they'd get to the red zone, not get aggressive, they'd stall out knowing that they could kick field goals and have the advantage. So to me, it wasn't anywhere near as aesthetically pleasing a Super Bowl as you've had in the past. But yeah, again, I was fine, had a really good time. But to me, that defense and that blitz that you saw where they doubled from that weak side, where it's a linebacker and then the nickel cornerback, it looked like New England had no answer for that. And it felt like one of those, you get me with a couple times, okay, maybe there's something hot there. Maybe you can make it hard for the linebacker to go from the opposite side of the field to run all the way over there to get to my slot receiver because I'm just beating you for 6 yards or something. They had no answer for it.
I think they were stunned by the concept initially,
yeah,
which you can understand with Witherspoon coming from the slot because maybe, and it's not like they haven't run it this year, but Seattle pressures with 4. That's their entire thing. Mm-hmm. They blitz less than most teams. They don't have to. They wrecked the game with their front, and they did. They dominated the line of scrimmage. But there's really no excuse when you see something a couple times. Josh McDaniels, Drake May at quarterback. Like when you start to see this stuff, all right, let's
go, well, that's where he's coming from every time. Let's do something.
They could not figure it out.
Yeah.
But I thought, you and I talked last week about the betting line. It was odd that it never moved to me.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, look ahead was like 3.5. Within 24 hours of the end of the championship games, it was 4.5. And then it basically stayed there until kickoff. And it did feel like, at least the narrative nationally, which proved accurate last evening, was that Seattle was decidedly better and was going to whoop New England, right? But you never saw that correction. And it kind of led me to believe, well, maybe we will have a ball game here. There's very, very narrow path to that, in my opinion. 2 things had to happen for the Patriots, not as good as Seattle, to beat them. Number 1, they had to turn the Seahawks over. To me, that was the only way they were going to win, is if you turn them over 2 or 3 times, you have 0 or 1, you're +2, and those possessions get you 7 or 10 points, and now you flip the script.
Yep.
Darnold did not throw an interception, and he did not fumble. They didn't punch the ball out of any skill guys. Again, 0 turnovers in 3 playoff games for the Seahawks, and that was the case last night. So you get an X there. And then the other had to be that Drake May, who days ago was one vote away from winning the MVP award, has to put the team on his back and be great. And he was the opposite of that. He played poorly. He had a bad game, his worst game of the season. And so if you were to have told me before the game, you're going to get 0 turnovers, and Drake May is going to play a bad football game, well, the question is not, are you going to win? It's how bad are you going to lose by?
Right.
They don't have that luxury. The reason that I actually thought May was deserving of the MVP award is it's kind of him or nothing with New England's offense. You know, you don't have the luxury of Puka Nacua and Devontae Adams and Kyron Williams in the number one run game. So, like, if you looked at the quote from Uchenna Nwosu from Seattle, I don't know if you saw this, but he basically said, talking about May, he's their whole team. We knew if we affected him, they've got nothing. Check. I mean, you did that.
That confirmed,
and so he was uncomfortable. He was flustered. He turns into a deer in the headlights. I know that their offensive line has been terrible and played badly, but I thought he completely just got flummoxed and
he succumbed to it.
Held the ball and stood there. And it's like, dude, go be an athlete. Go make football plays. Go do the thing you do. And he didn't. And they completely, I thought they won the game with the first couple drives of just how much they had him and that front rattle.
They hit him so hard and so often. To me, it would have really behooved him to have scrambled a couple times early.
I didn't get, or move the pocket. Like, do something
else,
to get him moving. It seemed like Josh McDaniels just wanted to do their thing. And it got too late before they started to. I also don't understand. Do you realize Seattle this year defensively, as great as they were at everything, the one area where they were actually really bad was against like empty looks spread out. That's also a way you would think to be able to better figure out where coverages are coming from, just throw behind the blitzer. I didn't understand why they never went empty or tried to do quick game, but it didn't matter. Whatever they tried didn't work.
Yeah, I mean, you could do a play or two and you go back to what you do, and that was going to be bottled up. The speed of Seattle's defense, that, you know, I always think of this selfishly through my own lens. Of
I want
okay,
that.
Yeah, that's nice. Okay, good for them. Where's mine? I want that thing. I want the thing that is dominant now. Communication issue. There's no you point at me and I pointed at you and I have my palms up to the sky after someone has a big gash gain against you. Everybody flies around. And think about how slow and methodical and plodding and the chasing at all times and barely able to get tackles this terrible Washington defense was. I know it's not apples to apples because they're a second division team picking in the top 10 and this is the Super Bowl champ. But my God, do they have a long way to go to approach anything like that. Again, this is an all-time dominant group. They don't, every non-Rams team, they shove it on pretty much. But man, oh man, it's to a man. Every single one of those guys, from Nick Manwari, who's incredible, to Devin Witherspoon and Nwosu last night, the speed that which they are able to play downhill and so fast. That's one part McDonald, one part just the predators that they have on that side.
McDonald's unbelievable. If you look at how little they blitz, okay, they're one of 18 teams to blitz as little as they do over the last 25 years, I think the metric was that I saw. And the top two teams in pressure rate and success in terms of hitting the quarterback despite not blitzing were this year's Seahawks and the Ravens of 3 years ago when McDonald was running the Ravens as the hotshot coordinator.
Okay.
There's a theme there.
I was going to say, there's a pattern.
This guy is brilliant. He interviewed here, coulda, shoulda, woulda, but he's the coach of Seattle, and 2 years in, they're Super Bowl champions. A couple of other notes from the game, just guys that I think are worth talking about. Didn't really matter who was against Will Campbell. He got undressed and destroyed. That was almost a disqualifying performance for their top 5 pick, the left tackle. 14 pressures given up in that game, Danny. I saw somewhere that's the most any tackle has given up in any game by himself since 2018. Not a Super Bowl, just a game. We're talking about a game.
Talking about a game.
14 pressures by himself.
That's too many.
29 in the playoff run. They might have to kick him inside the guard. I know that you don't want to do big referendums on a few weeks, but the knock was the length of the arms. He was actually much better before the injury than he was after. He, by the way, left the locker room without talking to anybody last night, which is always a good look after you get your butt handed to you. But 14 pressures. And then I thought Kenneth Walker made himself some money. Less second half than first half, although he made some explosive plays in the second half as well. But he literally figuratively carried Seattle in the early going when they weren't doing a whole lot in the passing game, struggling on third down a little bit. Overall for him, 161 in terms of scrimmage yards, most by a running back in a Super Bowl since Terrell Davis in Super Bowl 32, almost 30 years ago, which, by the way, I didn't realize this. This is crazy. That's the last time an MVP of the Super Bowl was a running back? Was Terrell Davis of the Broncos?
How about that?
That seems crazy that nobody would have been along the way.
Yeah, it shifts, or it reflects the shift in our society where the MVP or the Heisman Trophy just means what quarterback had the best season.
28 years, we've had DBs, we've had receivers.
That's true. But
James White won it, so that can't be accurate. The stat I'm looking at.
It also, by the way, I think he cost himself with a drop, had more yards. A beautiful play call where he's open there, kind of in the side flat and almost backtracking, hit him right in the hands. He dropped that pass, but Walker was really, really good. I mean, I think of him more as.
I just want to jump in real quick because I just looked. Toby helped me with this. James White did not win Super Bowl MVP. He should have won Super Bowl MVP when Brady checked it down to him 800 times on the comeback from 28-3. But because it was Brady won MVP.
Brady got it.
Back to you, Dan.
Yeah, there we go.
So I guess that stat might be right. That the last running back to win Super Bowl MVP was Terrell Davis 28 years ago. Which
I think of Kenneth Walker as a little bit more battering ram, a little bit of wiggle and burst, but mostly he's there to get through the hole. I can't remember a level of patience like that. Again, it was reminiscent of Le'Veon Bell on skates doing that a few different times. I mean, you get the Collinsworth out, he's walking up there. But I thought he was excellent last time. Well blocked, well designed. I mean, that to me is where running games are won and lost.
Fast.
But he's that, and that's exactly where I was going. He's so big and strong, you don't think of him that way. I think everyone, like linebackers, filling, safeties, whatever, he's faster than you think.
What was Collinsworth talking about, by the way? He completely crushed him last night. There was a moment on the broadcast where he goes, "Now here's what we didn't tell you about Kenneth Walker. He can't block and he can't catch." I'm like, what?
Huh?
Like, damn, dude. I mean, that's kind of Troy Aikman-ish in your level of abruptness there. But I think he's a fine catcher of the football. He proved that throughout the playoffs. But he probably is not going to leave Seattle. He's definitely going to make some money pending free agent. And then I'd be remiss if I didn't bring up the special teams. We talked all week about how good Seattle's special teams were. The gap between them and the Patriots was pretty substantial. Their kicker, Jason Myers, goes 5 for 5 on field goal attempts. Pretty much all chip shots. I saw some people saying he should be the MVP. Categorically disagreed with that because it wasn't like he was Brandon Aubrey booting 64-yarders. It was all kind of chippies. But their punter, that is the most impactful punting performance I think I've seen in the Super Bowl.
That was pretty awesome.
Michael Dixon, 7 punts, a net of 48, which is insane. 3 down punts inside the 6-yard line, and he only allowed 2 returns for 4 yards. Changed the game. Yeah. Over and over and over again. He was great.
A couple of times hit it deep, directional. The one where the whole world knew they were coming after it, and he hit that super quick little half punt, whatever you call it, like a little line drive that ended up rolling into the coffin corner. You just go, that's next level punting. You know what I mean? That's not just the normal, hey, it's got to be on sub 2 seconds to get rid of it and kick it high and let your teams run under it. That was a Australian rules football style. The guys are bearing down on me. I got to get rid of it.